Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the motivation session. I am so thrilled, and I think you all are a little bit more thrilled than I am today, because you guys have been like overly excited today. But I'm so happy to be here this evening with the world-renowned, the wonderful, award-winning Miss Ruth Carter. Thank you so much for being here. Can you guys give her a virtual hand clap? I'm so happy to have you here. I really am. You see how excited I am? How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. Thanks for having me. It's wonderful to, be in this space after, I don't know, I've been doing this for 30 plus years, and this is my first time on FaceTime Live. So I'm feeling good.
And is with me, so I'm happy. I'm happy. I'm happy. So tonight, I just want to tell everybody like how we met and how we went, and then we have a bunch of questions for you and I tonight.
All
So
right.
when I started designing, we all know I don't know if you all know Miss Vanessa Hall, Beauty Within. She raved so much about, and I already knew who you were, but she raved so much. She was like, Justin, I have to get you in front of Ruth Carter. And I'm like, Miss Vanessa, I don't think she's gonna like any of my stuff. She's like, I have to do it. I have to do it. So it was this rare, I think you were at her salon and it was a snowstorm. She said, Justin, I
Okay.
don't care how you get here, get in an Uber, get there. For some reason, it had snowed so bad, I could not get there. She was so bummed. She was like, I spoke you up, I spoke you up. And I was like, things happen for a reason. Time went by, and of course, your niece, my cousin, Erica Bolden, she was like, get over here. Miss Carter she wants to meet you. And I'm like, no, that's not true. And I was like thinking like, no, it's not. But finally, that night, I got to meet the wonderful Miss Ruth Carter. And it was so amazing because for her to sit in your presence and to know that you actually wanted to meet me and you like my work, it was absolutely amazing because I'm such a huge fan of what you've done. So I
Thank
applaud you.
you. Thank
I
you,
want to thank
Justin.
you for being
That's so
who you
nice of
are
you.
and
Uh,
reaching back to someone like me in the same city. So that speaks volume. So I want to thank you personally before we go forward. Thank you for
uh,
being you.
you're welcome. My pleasure. I mean, we all have to start somewhere. And I think that you have done so much. You're way beyond the start and you've accomplished a lot. And, it's nice for us to, honor each other and speak to each other. And, we're only an arm's distance apart from each other, really. And that goes for, anybody you want to meet in this life, anybody you want to connect to in this life. Just don't think that people are unattainable.
Right.
They are. And if you have a question for somebody, anybody, you can ask that question. It's sometimes hard to meet people that you admire because sometimes they disappoint you. Sometimes you expect, a warm welcome and you don't get one. So it's nice when thank you for saying I'm someone that you admired. So it's nice when someone that you admire reaches out to you because it eliminates, the fear of disappointment.
Right.
Because sometimes those that we admire, everybody has their flaws. Everybody's only human. So we're all just an arm's length away from each other.
Well, I remember that night when you spoke to me and I was telling you like how much stuff I had to do. And I think I was working on the Oscars, doing some things, for outfitting, for the Oscars. And I said, I'm gonna take the month of February off because I need to focus. And you were like, the month of February? That's the most important month. You don't take the month off. And I remember that so well. And then, I was telling you like how do I get in touch with this one? How do I get in touch with it? And one thing that rung and is ringing in my head, you said, all it takes is for you to make the message, send the message. All they can say is yes. All they can say is no. But you've done your part. And from that day, honestly, like all I've been doing is sending the message and they've been coming back. So I want to encourage anybody, like the advice that she gave me, it worked. Like all you can do is put yourself out there and show what you've done. And you can't be afraid. And I was afraid, I'm gonna tell you that, I was afraid of the no. I was afraid of like, oh, they're gonna reject me. But after you saying that, it showed me that If the no comes, it comes, but the yes will come right after that. And that was absolutely amazing. And that was wonderful advice that I've used today. And look at where it's gotten me. Like the next week, I was on USA Today. I'm like, oh, look at this, you know? So it was
Yeah.
absolutely amazing. But I want to ask you, as a creative, growing up in Springfield, you know, how hard was it, you know, to work in your creative? Because everyone talks about, you know, Springfield's such a hard city to work your craft in, and most importantly, fashion, because this is not the most fashionable city, you know. But how was it for you trying to prepare where you are now in this city?
Well, I left Springfield to go to college. I went to Hampton University. And then after I graduated from Hampton, I came back to Springfield and I did internships in theater. So, I didn't take the course of fashion. I took the course of theater, and theater does have costume design. And I had wonderful training down at Stage West in downtown Springfield. I had wonderful training in costume design, and I was working under cutters, and I was running the shows in the evenings with a team of others, and dressing actors. And then from there, the cutter in Springfield, Mass, recommended me to go to the Santa Fe Opera. And you can only get into the Santa Fe Opera by recommendation of somebody else who was there in that training program. So I was accepted at the Santa Fe Opera as a result of my training in theater in Springfield. So there's a very strong theater community when you think of Tanglewood and you think of Hartford Stage, and Broadway is just a stone throw away. There's a strong thread of theater going through Springfield, Boston, all the way to New York. So that's what I tapped into, and that's what led me and spurred me on.
Well, and I think you said something important, that there is areas right here in Springfield that can bring you to the next level. And I think a lot of times, you know, people think, you know, that they have to go abroad, they have to go elsewhere. But it's really just looking at the opportunities that you have here in your area, whether it's Springfield, New York, New Jersey, Vermont, you know, do your resource and your research in your own city. So that brings me to my next question. So being a Springfield native, like what can you say is the most, I'm trying to word this correctly, what brings you the joy of knowing that you're from Springfield? And when you see yourself, you know, getting your awards and, you know, your name in lights, what still brings you back to being a native of Springfield? What makes your heart glad to think of Springfield?
I love that I had a normal childhood, that I was not, I was embraced by my community. The Boys and Girls Club was right up the street from my house. My public education was great. I was in programs called the SASA program, the Uhuru SASA program, and we went up to Amherst, Mass, and had a great summer. I was in Upward Bound. I was Miss Black Harambe. I won the beauty pageant one summer. My childhood was full of enriching experiences, and I only have Springfield to thank for that. And I'm thankful every day that I didn't grow up, fearful about, gun violence and gang violence. And I know every city has that, but, I'm not a spring chicken anymore. So I grew up and it wasn't happening. And I'm just grateful for it. I'm grateful for the people that I have known, and throughout my life in Springfield, my friends in my neighborhood, and it was a real childhood, where you played kickball and had, sleepovers and all that kind of stuff, and that's Springfield to me.
Right, and I think a lot of those times we've lost, getting back to that, it's in this day and age, it's hard to sleep over anybody's house, like especially in the time that we're
Yeah,
in, because we really don't know. But just to have those memories and to look back on that, I think is key, for any creative to know that, if you do happen to leave where you are, that you can think of those memories that brought you to where you are today. So I think that that's absolutely amazing. So I'm going to go a little further. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're working on now before I get into everybody else's questions?
Well, Coming to America is about to come out.
I'm so excited for it. Like, I'm excited
Yeah,
to see.
that's March 5th. And then I'm getting a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame on the 25th of February, which
You guys,
is
let's virtual clap for the
exciting.
star. Let's virtual clap for the star.
Right.
Because that's going to be me one day, too. I'm following her footsteps. Go ahead.
Yes. And prepping the movie that the second installment for the movie that I won the Oscar for. So there's a number two in my future.
Very good. I'm excited. I'm so excited to see the outfits and the looks of Coming to America 2. You know, because Coming to America 1 was, I look at, for me, because I'm in fashion and being a fashion designer, I look at automatically, forget the storyline, I'm looking at the wardrobe. I'm looking at what they have on. I'm looking at the tailor
Yeah,
fit. I'm looking like, oh, how can I do this and how can I do
yeah.
that? But to know the person and to know that I'm talking to the person now is absolutely amazing. But I am absolutely excited for that. So, what was the inspiration behind what we will see at Coming to America too?
Well, I wanted to show later in life, Prince Akeem. He in our story, he becomes king. People are 30 years older now, and things are not the same. When Eddie Murphy was 20 years old, that's
Right.
how young he was when he made the first one. Now he's a father of three girls, and he finds out he's a father of a son that's back in Queens. So they go back to America to get his son, and so I really wanted it to be a continuation of the first one. All the things that we saw that we loved about the first one. Oh, the grandeur, the wonderful outfits, the baldricks, the envelope hats, and I just wanted to take things to the next level and show that Zamunda, because we didn't see a lot of Zamunda in the first one,
Yeah, you
and so
did.
we have to show that Zamunda is different from Wakanda, first of all. And if Wakanda was the military center of Africa, then Zamunda is the fashion capital. So you have a lot of really cool ideas. I wish I could have edited the movie myself and then I would have
Okay.
shown you everything. But it's funny and it's fun. And that's the bottom line. You want the movie to be funny and fun.
So, I mean, thinking about like editing yourself, do you get that a lot? Like, do you feel like, you know, after you see it, like, wow, I wanted to do this and I wanted to do that. Do you get that
Oh,
often where
every
there's so many
time. Oh
things you
my
want to do
God.
differently?
Of course. I mean, I
Okay.
think I can't relax when I first see it. They sent me an advance copy, so I watched it. Thank God. I never get an advance copy of anything. So I'm seeing it for the first time in a way, like the rest of the audience is seeing it for the first time. And that can be really stressful on me because I can't really relax. I'm looking for all the flaws and and I'm like mad because there's scenes that I love that get cut and they're not in it at all. So it's hard to watch it the first and second time. Then by the third time, I'm kind of like, okay, let's just go on this ride. Can't change it.
I get it, but I know there has to be like some type of proud feeling that you get, like, this
Yeah.
is me, because I get that, when I see my customers and when I see magazines, and it's just this warm feeling, and then also too, it's the critique. I think every creative goes through that critique stage where, I
Yes.
could have done this, or I could have fixed this, or I
Yeah.
could have done that, but there's always that, for me, that sense of accomplished, like I can breathe after that, but then I got to pick right up and do the next thing. Do you get
Yeah.
that
I
feeling
have the
too?
same thing. That's interesting.
Yeah, that's how I am all the time. Like, it's just like after Fashion Week, I'm like, ooh, I can breathe, but then it's
For
like
a
the next day,
second.
it's like, yeah, it's like the next day, let's go. What is next? And, the calendar is always filled.
Yeah.
So it's, 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 um, it's an amazing feeling, but it's wonderful to be able to actually share that and to be able to follow in someone like you in their footsteps, being in the same area. A lot of
Awesome.
cities and a lot of states can't really say that because there's not a lot of people like you that will reach back and to help people like me, the creatives
Yeah.
like me. So I want to encourage, before we go into the questions, I want to encourage any creative that has, made it abroad or has done more than your others that are in your city. Be like Miss Carter, reach back, help, teach, motivate. That's what we want to do tonight. We want to motivate everyone, but you as those creators, you should motivate and reach back because people like me appreciate it. So I want to thank you again. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, and you doing your thing. I just love it.
I'm trying, but to hear it from you, that means the world. So let's get in some questions. You ready for the questions? I have a long list of questions.
Yeah.
You ready? Okay.
Yeah.
So I have a question here. It says, Mrs. Carter and Justin Haynes, what advice would you give your younger self that's just starting out?
Don't worry about, don't sweat the small stuff. And that means, if you're having a bad day today, tomorrow's going to be much brighter. If someone says they don't like something that you did, that's okay. If you like it, that's all that's important. Just don't sweat the small stuff because you've got a long road ahead of you.
And I would have to agree, remember that, like Rome wasn't built in a day, you have to start somewhere. So don't get frustrated and want to stop. I would tell those to stay consistent in what you do. If you start it, see it through, see it all the way through. So, kind of like, so you can see the end result. That's
Yeah.
let's go to the next question. Mrs. Carter, how was your college experience? Well, it says Mrs. Carter and Justin. How was your college experience, and what did you learn about your career or yourself through it?
I learned in college that I was a costume designer. When I was asked to do a play, I went to the library and I looked up costume designer, and I looked at what she was supposed to, or he was supposed to do, and I said, "Oh, I could do that." And when I did it, everyone liked it, and before that, after that, it was history. I have never stopped since my junior year in college.
Well, mine was a little different. I was actually working. I did my associates at SICK, but I was actually working a full-time job at the Gap. The Gap
Whoa.
was where I was working while I was going through school. Because I remember telling my mom, because at that point everybody had to get a job while they were teenagers, and the teenager job when I was growing up was let's go to McDonald's, let's go to Burger King, let's go to Dunkin' Donuts, and I immediately told my mom, I was like, I'm not working there. You guys can't make me work there. I told my mom and dad, you can't make me do that. So I went to the mall. I went to Holyoke Mall, and I was like, I'm going to work at retail. Like, I want to be in retail. Design is what I want to do. Like, fashion is what I want to do. I'm going to start there. And believe it or not, I started at the Gap at the age 15, and then I kind of worked my way up the ladder. And I was like basically running the visual. I was visual manager while I was in college. So what I learned in college, taking business courses, is for me, I learned that, like you said, I found myself in those 2 years of college. Like I knew like this is what I wanted to do, this is what I wanted to be. And from there, I kind of just went and created it. And for me, it didn't take me 4 years to get where I was. Some people it will take 4 years, some it will take 2 years, or and I'm encouraging everyone to, as far as you can do your education, do that. But I believe for me, like Ms. Carter said, I found myself in college. Like it was like something just hit me. Like, yep, this is it. This is what I'm supposed to do.
Beautiful.
Let's go to the next question. For you, can you give us some words of empowerment?
Don't be afraid.
That's good.
Don't be afraid. And that's what stops a lot of people, fear. I don't want to put my stuff out there because I'm afraid somebody's going to steal my ideas. Well, if they steal your ideas, at least they were good. Don't be
That's
afraid.
absolutely correct. And I agree. Like, and that was some good information too. Don't be, and if, I think just to touch on that a little bit, just so you can speak on that too as well. A lot of people are afraid, if they start something, somebody will grab it and then start to do it. And I've always said, if you do not start it with a heart and it's not a passion of yours and you're just doing it to get quick money, it's not going to last. You know, but how do you speak to someone on that level who is afraid and is like, you know, if I start this and there's someone doing the same thing and they're kind of competing, what advice would you give to them outside of being afraid? You know, because there's so much of that I'm finding in the creative world, you know, that someone wants to do it better, you know, but how do they get over that?
I think you have to, to get over your fears. I mean, we all have fears. We all go in. I even have fears. I start a project and I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to get this big project done? And one thing I do to get over fear is I breathe, first and foremost, in through your nose, out through your mouth. And that helps with fear. The second thing that I do is I learn about the elements. If I'm afraid about the people that are involved, like I'm afraid to present my ideas, or I'm afraid to take that step into that office that's, a big place to me, I research the people. Who am I meeting and what is their background? So they become more human and less like this big monster in my head that's scaring me. The other thing I do if I'm, getting butterflies in my stomach and I don't have, maybe I'm not as prepared. I think I'm not as prepared as I want to be or whatever. I do aromatherapy. You put something on your hand and you smell it, the sense of something that you like the smell of. Maybe it's eucalyptus, it's jasmine. You just start smelling those things and it will calm you down because, fear tightens you up and
It does.
sometimes it doesn't allow your brain to function because you're so fearful you can barely even speak. So learning about your situation dissipates fear. Breathing, deep breathing, just it's something you're going to have to deal with for the rest of your life. I mean, fear doesn't go away. You just learn how to deal with it, and that's how I deal with it. I learn as much as I can, and I prepare. I don't beat myself up over not having, 50 ideas. If I just have five, I present those five in the best way possible. And I do a little bit of self-care. Self-care is what's going to carry you through a lot of situations that you are intimidated by.
I have to say this pandemic was one thing that, you know, kind of taught me like how to kind of breathe and, you know, kind of just, you know, take a step back, you know, because, you know, things were happening so fast. And even as creatives, you know, it's just like, what are you going to do? Like, what am I going to do? Like, work stops, everything stops. But it was just that moment where I had to just like, you know, breathe. And, you know, I was worried about, you know, all the stuff I had done before, like, you know, where was it going to go? Like, what was going to happen? Will people still know who I am? And you're absolutely right. You have to take that moment to just kind of just like stop and kind of just take it in, breathe a bit, and then start again. So I agree with that.
Yeah, one step in front of the other, just one step at a time.
I agree. There's so many questions coming in, so I'm trying to get all of them together. So here we go. All right, so here's the next one. If you can create for anybody in the world, who would you want to create for and why? This is a question for both of us, so I'll let you go first.
Okay, I know the answer to that question because that changes for me all the time, because I'm
Right.
always asked that question. So my latest answer is Riz Ahmed. I love Riz Ahmed. He's an actor, and he's
Nice.
very new, and he loves research. So he did a movie about losing your hearing in sound, and he went around people who were deaf, and he did intense research on the character. I think it's The Art of Sound. This Riz Ahmed is his name.
Riz
And he's
Ahmed.
very thoughtful and he gets into his character and he does deep research on his character and he gets around the people that are that character, and sometimes he puts himself in precarious situations. I like actors like that because I feel like I go that depth for them as well.
Right.
So to go together is a treat. So Riz
Well,
Ahmed.
I have no doubt that that's going to be on your list anyway, so I'm not even worried about that. You know, me, and you may think this is absolutely crazy, but for me, I have two. One is Erica Badu, and the other one is Katy Perry. I absolutely love their style aesthetic. Like, it's just me. Like, I love how they just think outside the box all the time. Like, every time you see them, it's something new, it's something fresh, it's something like we haven't seen before because they're always thinking. So, those are my two.
I follow Erica Badu on Instagram. I love her garden. She grows her vegetables, and her daughter is so cute, looks just like her. And I think they have a big old swing in the middle of their living room
Yeah,
or
they,
something. Yeah, it's awesome. Her
well,
daughter can
please
sing too.
let her know that she has a fan here and someone who wants to dress
I'm
her,
just
okay?
following her on Instagram.
Okay.
That's, you can send her that note.
Oh, I'm wondering, I'm going to
I told you we're only an arm's length away, and even less than that,
only.
hold your phone real close.
That's it. That's it. You know, that's on my agenda, believe it or not. All right, let's go to this next question. Here we go. All right, according to you, what are the skills that are necessary to become a successful fashion designer?
Take it away.
Right. Well, let me just say this. To become a successful fashion designer, you have to know your skill and know your craft. Okay, I see a lot of and you have to know the difference between a fashion designer and a tailor and a seamstress. They are two separate things. A lot of fashion designers are just designing the garment, the clothing, but their seamstress and the tailors are actually the ones putting it together. It's that cut and sew thing. So I would say to be a successful fashion designer, you have to know your craft, and that's doing all it takes to get it done. Miss Jessie Daniels sat down with me 6 months and taught me everything I know today. You know, it was just a willingness. Every day I was in her basement because I wanted to learn how to sew that bad. You know, so I was in her basement every day, 6 months, just learning the craft, the ins and outs of the actual garment and putting it together. So first, decide what it is that you want to do. If you just want to design the garment, or if you want to actually put the garment together as well. So decide that too. And to be successful at it, know your craft. Put out garments that people can actually wear. Okay? People that put out garments that people can actually use. You know, put out garments that you can send to an influencer, that you can send to a magazine editor. You know, you want to make sure that you send garments out that you're not ashamed of. I've seen it so many times at Fashion Week where, you know, the designers are tucked back in the corner because they're scared about what the review is going to be. You know, as a designer, as a tailor, you have to be confident too, and you cannot be ashamed of that garment. So if you know that it's not put together that well and you're sending something down the runway half done, that's not successful. You have to make sure that you are putting good content and good garments out for people like Miss Carter and others to be able to wear and use. Do you agree?
I agree. I agree. That sounds like sound advice too. I mean, success is whatever you make it. You know, if you enjoy creating and actually designing it and making it, and you make prom dresses for girls at prom time, you know what? Success is subject. I mean, success is subjective. Like every layer of who you want to be is laced with successes in your mind, in your heart, in yourself. So take each step as you go along as a series of successes because you are growing and you are learning. So to be successful, you have to have that journey in mind, and you have to find the successes for you in that journey. I learned this. I did that. I became this.
Right.
I was able to do that. My path led me here. Don't look at, I'm down here and I want to be here, and this
Right.
is my only time that I can feel like I'm successful. No, this is a success that you took the step to learn. Here's another success that you took the learn that you took the step to grow, that you took the step to move out and get your own studio. You have so many successes along the way. So successful is full.
I agree. And like she said, if you put that prom dress together and it didn't fall apart that night, that's a success story right there. That's a success story.
Exactly. Hey,
It made
give
it all
yourself
night.
a
It made it
pat
to
on
the
the back.
pictures. Right. If
Exactly.
it
You
made
got
it,
a compliment. Hey, success.
listen, my first compliment, I thought I was going to go through the floor. Like, that was the most amazing moment of my life. Like, it was my work. So take those successes, like she said, and take the journey with it. All right, here are some more questions. What are some of your inspirations when creating your designs? Miss Carter and Justin, I'm gonna let you go first.
I'm inspired by everything. I look at nature, I look at fashion, I go on to blogs, I have books, I go to museums, I live life, I paint, I look at color combinations that other people do, and I go, ooh, wow, that is fresh. And I try to learn from it. And I'm inspired by other people. I'm inspired by Justin and his sense of style and what he does. And so
Wow.
all of that stuff kind of lives inside, and it kind of motivates you to, you know, um, step into your project. But I always try to involve myself in finding inspiration. So for Black Panther, I went through all of my history books on the tribes of Africa. I just do whatever I can. I go on trips. I went to South Africa and spent 5 weeks. And then I went into the bush and I went to Joburg Afro Punk. And I just try to stay out there and live life and, be positive and think positive and just soak it all in.
I'm the same way, but I'm inspired by the eras of the 60s, 70s, and 80s. I just loved the way they dressed back then. I think it became lost in the 90s, and as we got into the 2000s, like I believe in the 20th century, I believe in the 21st century, basically, I think it lost somewhere. And my inspiration is those classic clean looks. For me, everybody dressed well every day. I mean, going to the grocery store, I look back at some pictures of, my grandma and, how they dressed. Everybody just looked so amazing all the time, and even if it was just a pair of slacks and a top, they called them blouses back then, it still was such a clean look. So that's what I'm
They
trying. That's
called
what,
them blouses back then. I still call them blouses. I'm not supposed
not,
to
not
say
now.
that.
Listen, I still call them
Not the
blouses too, but
blouse anymore in my closet.
you
Oh,
would believe I said blouse at New York Fashion Week. One of the girls was like, "You mean a shirt? They don't use that context anymore." Believe it or not, So a blouse is still a blouse to me. A shirt is still a shirt, But that's my inspiration, and I also take my inspiration from my childhood sitcoms and TV shows that I used to watch, like Different World, Bill Cosby, Facts of Life. All of those I take and I try to reiterate all of those looks. So that's where my inspiration comes from. Let's go to the next question. I'm telling you, Ms. Carter, there's so many questions, but we're not gonna get through them all tonight.
and I apologize. My dog is having a barking fit.
Okay.
All of a sudden, didn't wasn't barking all day till I got on the
Okay.
Zoom.
And just let you know, we are safe. We are following CDC guidelines. I meant to say that at the beginning. Ms. Carter is safe in her home, and I am safe here in the studio with my mask, and I have my sanitizer beside me. So I wanted to make sure that was clear for everyone. All right. Do you feel being from Springfield has had an impact, large or small, on your journey to where you are today, Ms. Carter?
Yeah, because I was super naive. And so, because of that naivete, coming from a small town, I didn't know the pitfalls. So I went head on, right in. I was like, hey, hi, I'm Ruth Carter. I'll work here for free. What's your name? And they were like, okay. This girl just walked in and said she's going to work for free. Let's keep her.
Right.
And I was naive. I was naive. And I just would do anything. Long hours, little pay. I think
Right. I think that's
that,
all of us because I was the same way. Like I think just for me it was like the opportunity. Like I got the opportunity. Let me do it now while the opportunity's there. And then it's like
yeah.
something hits like, boom, like you are better than this. You can ask for something. You can ask for a
Yeah.
certain amount. You can do that. So
Yeah, you
it
can.
was the reality check for me. Like because at first like for people just to want me, I was like, oh sure, no problem, I'll do it, no worries. Like you said, for free. I'll just do it. I'll just do it, as long as it's just for me to do it. But I had to learn. I had to learn that way as well. What made you decide a career in fashion, and how did you stumble upon a trend?
Ooh, that's your question.
I was gonna pass it to you. What made me decide a career in fashion? Well, I have to say this. Like, it was a dream and passion for me. Like, middle school was it. I knew middle school, 8th grade, like, I wanted to do fashion. Like, I wanted to be a fashion designer. I wanted to learn how to sew. I didn't want to just write it down on the paper and just give it to somebody else to do it. I knew I wanted to do it, So for me, stumbling upon a trend was after the fact, like all during school. I tell this story all the time. Like, I was campaigning for best dress. Like, that was just my thing. I was campaigning for it. Like, we took gym class. Gym class was my time to go buy new sneakers, new gym shorts, everything. Like, that was my time to show off. So I was basically kind of creating a trend there. But my full trend of what I wanted to do didn't come till later on in life when I actually got into it. Like, everything that I thought that was in my head and I actually put it out just was not feasible. Like, I had to come away from that because I was totally couture. My first show, I don't think anybody would be able to wear that on on an average day because I just took everything that was in my mind and I just put it out there, and
Yeah.
that took so I had to go back and kind of just rethink it all. So then my trend became, going back and pulling those looks from the 60s and 70s and actually making a signature for myself. So it took a while for me to get my base of what it was that I wanted to do, because as a creative, you may be, creating stuff now, but there's so much in your head until you get it out and you see it. I don't know if you felt this way in your costume design. When you get out and see it and know that it does not work for that particular time, you can't do anything else but go back. If this is something you're serious about, go back and redo and kind of revamp. So that's what I had to do. You want to add anything? Did I answer that okay?
You know, trial and error. What was the question? I forgot the
The question was,
question.
she said, what made you decide in a career of fashion, and how did you stumble upon a design trend?
Yeah, no, I don't follow trends. My thing is storytelling. Costume designing is storytelling. So, you got to work with characters and character arcs, and you try something, it doesn't work. You try something else, it doesn't work. There's no forecasting how it's going to turn out, but I do sketches, illustrations, I do mood boards. And I use that as my guide. I might be inspired by the 60s or the 70s or the 80s, the 90s, and I look at all of the color palettes and the things and styles and trends that people wore. I usually am inspired by the past, and I don't try to forecast. If I'm on a modern film, I just try to be me.
All right.
And if I want to do something unique, I'm usually inspired by something else. So nothing is new under the sun. Everything rotates,
It does,
and
and I
I'm
think,
part of
like you
that
said,
rotation.
right?
Yeah.
And I think too, like, it comes to a point where you have to create your own trend. Like, you have to build for you. Like, your design trend is what you want to see your brand become.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
that.
But don't stress yourself out over it.
No, and that's what I was doing. Believe it or not, I was just like, oh my God, I was beating my head up every night, like staying up long nights, hours. Like, what am I
Uh,
gonna do? Like, how are they? And like you said, you cannot stress over it. If you are passionate and you believe in it, just go with it. Just go with it. Somebody will wear it.
yeah, somebody said, don't worry to me one time. They said, don't worry about trying to figure it out. Just do what you like.
Mm,
And it's kind of like a relief to say, oh, I'm going to pick that because I like it.
right.
I'm not going to do this because, oh, I'm just trying to figure out why to do it. It's like a painting, like, I don't know what color to put on the canvas first. Oh, you know what? I'm going to put blue on the canvas first because I just like blue.
Right.
I just like it. And
Right.
then that leads to what you like, and what you like leads to who you are.
Right. That was good. I hope somebody wrote that down. I hope somebody wrote that down. That was good. All right. Here's a question. Well, actually, a comment in a question. It says, moving to Springfield from New York, I had to stop my studies for my major in fashion design because it was not offered in our schools. What is your advice to students and parents that have children that have a passion for fashion in our community?
I did not have a field of study at Hampton University. I made up my own curriculum. So make it work, people. There's nothing stopping you. Nothing is stopping you. And I think that is like the important lesson there. Sometimes we find ourselves like, oh, darn, I shouldn't have picked that. I shouldn't have been in this school. I should have, I should be in New York. I should be in California. I shouldn't be here. You know what? Sometimes you got to make the best of here. And if it means you coordinate a fashion show with somebody who puts on events, and you get to put your fashion on a runway that's local, hey, there's a lot of satisfaction in that. So you got to make it work.
I agree. You're using, studies in, schools, somewhat, it's a slight excuse, and I'm not downing you or anything, but it's a slight excuse because there's so many mentors or so many people that know the craft that can help you in your craft. So it's reaching out to them. It's not always the schools that are going to do it because there's a lot of self-taught who are huge in knowledge of fashion, design, and tailorship that can help you. So definitely try to find you a mentor, someone that's willing to sit down with you and help you with your craft. And like she said, after you make it, find that show, create your own show, make it. And that's what I had to do. That's one thing I had to do. I had to make Springfield be what I wanted it to be. I couldn't wait for the next person. I couldn't wait for anybody else. If I wanted to put a fashion show on, I had to go ahead and do it. I couldn't wait for the city. I couldn't wait for anybody else. I couldn't wait for them to, well, this city of Springfield, to everybody to acknowledge that there's a fashion designer in this city. I couldn't wait for that. I had to go and just do me. And those who will love it will latch on. Those who won't, I think if you reach two, that's enough. All right. This one's for you. Mrs. Carter, I am a huge fan of the movie Black Panther. Watched it over 10 times. I loved every single one of your creations. Where did you get such an amazing vision to create such unique African clothing, jewelry, etc. for Wakanda? And then they say Wakanda forever.
Wakanda.
Wakanda forever.
Yeah, I think it's all the sum of everything I've ever done, because the Black diaspora, African diaspora, was very much a part of 40 Acres and a Mule and Spike Lee, where I started. We did Malcolm X. We were trying to show Brooklyn as a cultural center. So, growing up in Springfield, I grew up, with a village, Amor Village, and my sisters in the Barksdales, Sylvia, Michelle, Zakia, they taught me Swahili, they taught me about Kwanzaa. So I had a base already. I already knew that what most people thought of Africa was not consistent with what the continent was really like. So when I met Ryan Coogler, who wanted to present the Africa that he grew up knowing, not necessarily firsthand, but knowing about, I felt like he was the same as me, and we had the same background, and I just followed that. And I was like, oh, I know about the Tuareg. I had a Tuareg necklace, girl. I had one. Oh, wait, I know a little bit about Himba. Let me look at some more Himba elements. And then when I saw it, I was like, wow, these women are covering their hair in like shea butter and the red clay color in their skin. And why is that? Nobody ever asked the question why. They just look at those things and they think, oh, that must be, savage, but I was like, no, that's beautiful. And then I found out, ooh, the shea butter makes their skin soft. They like the way the red color looks on their brown skin. It's all about beauty. So I had to say to myself, I need to redirect what everybody thinks of beauty when they look at Wakanda. They need to see scars. They need to see Himba. They need to see how we work with leather and beadwork and make it symbolic. So I took an approach of beauty. Things had to be beautiful to me, and I wanted to present it in that way. So little by little, I chipped away at it. But I had a big team. We did a lot of research, and there were a lot of discussions around it.
Well, they're hashtagging Wakanda forever, so they love that. All right, this is another question for you. This is a lot of questions for you. I'm off the hook for right now. What are your favorite things to do when you are back home? I guess here in Springfield.
Oh, in Springfield? Okay,
Yes,
so my
and
mom.
then it's a two-parter question.
All right.
And what is your favorite inspiration? And do you have one of your own that keeps you going? What's your favorite inspiration? And do you have one of your own that keeps you going?
Okay, so what do I do when I go back home to Springfield?
Yeah, what do you do
First,
when you go back home to Springfield?
first I make an appointment at Beauty Within to get my hair done.
Right. Shout out to Miss Vanessa. Hey, Miss
Yeah.
Vanessa. Shout out to Miss Vanessa.
Yes. Then I chill with my mom, who's turning 100 this year.
Y'all
Okay.
give her a virtual clap for 100.
Virtual
Wow.
crowd for Mabel. You woo woo woo.
Virtual
And
clap.
usually it's like a sabbatical. So I walk across the street to the track at AIC, and I walk around the track, in the morning to get some exercise. I use coming home to Springfield as my time to recharge my batteries, my inner batteries. And I'm a member of LA Fitness downtown. I drive downtown. I do the spin class. Then I come back, I go to the Big Y. I go to Fresh Farms on Wilbraham Road, and I get all those good things to eat. Then I chill back at the house with my mom. Because, my mom is my inspiration, and I get my strength from her example. And at her age, I just want to hold her up in my hands and honor her and give her anything she wants, because she gave me everything of herself.
I'm the same way with my mom. I'm the same exact way. My mom's not 100 yet, but I'm the same way, so I know that. Let me ask you this before you go to the next part of the question. Has anybody ever been like starstruck when they saw you in the grocery store or on the track or, anywhere? Like, have they been like, oh my God, there's Ruth Carter?
Well, my mom used to say, they come up to her in the store and say, I know your daughter, me and her was, and I said, my mother was like, do you know this woman named so-and-so? And I'm like, I do not know her, mother. You have to be careful with people out there. And a lot of times, though, most of the time, I am embraced by all of the people that I knew and know. Henry Thomas and you just the people that run the Boys and Girls Club, and they all say that they were so proud of me and what I was able to accomplish. So that's the part that I love really about being home. It's like being an example, for anybody coming up in Springfield. Like, it doesn't, just because you're from Springfield doesn't limit your view of, being a success. You look at Ruth, she did it. And I'm not to say the road was easy.
Right.
but you can do it.
And shout out to Miss Denise Jordan because you were on a
Denise
planet.
Jordan, I couldn't think of her name at the
Oh,
second.
I love Miss
Yes,
Denise. You were on a panel with her the other day, and
yes,
she sent me a screenshot, and she was like, "I shouted you
yes.
out. I love Miss Denise. She loves
Yes.
you."
I get
Yeah,
pictures and photos from people like, oh, this is us when we was growing up. I was like, oh, I remember that, So I just
it's
love my
amazing. But it's
Springfield.
amazing how you can still come back home and be yourself
Yeah.
home. There's a lot of stars who can't and celebrities who don't do that. But take this as an example. When and if you make it there, remember your town and remember who you were when you left. I think that's very important. You weren't that person when you left, so remember who you were, the person that they knew you as, so you can come back and remain ground level. I think that's
Oh,
amazing that you can
yeah.
do that.
I
You
mean,
want to
I
answer?
think we need that as human beings. This Hollywood is not necessarily your home, and you better not make it your home because you're going to get a rude awakening. And that's how you separate, work from self.
Yeah, because like they say in fashion, one day you're in, one day you're out. You
Wow.
know, so you gotta right. So you gotta live the moment while you can. So the second part of that question was, what is your favorite inspiration? Do you have one of your own that keeps you going?
I would say that one of my favorite inspirations would be I collect the costumes that I worked on all the way from the beginning. I'm a theater girl, so theater people save stuff. And so now I have an exhibition of my work that's traveling. I just learned recently that the Springfield Museum's put in a request for the exhibition to come right back home to Springfield. And there's 60 pieces. There's Dolomite is my name, Do the Right Thing, Black Panther, Coming to America. All of those costumes are in the exhibition. And that inspires me that I can inspire somebody else. They even got the sewing machine that I learned on in my bedroom, that big brown wooded
Amazing.
old sewing machine, and they put it in the exhibition.
Virtual hand
So
claps, everybody. Virtual hand claps for that.
yes.
That's
So
amazing.
I mean that's kind of where I'm at. I have all kinds of things that inspire me, and I couldn't even name one thing, but I just like inspiring others too.
That's great. I hope that answered your question because that was great for me. All right, we're winding down. Shout out to my assistants, Nicole Webster and Crystal Grimes, for keeping us together with these questions. So we're winding down so you guys can give me the next batch of questions. But this next question is for me. It says, Justin, how was the status transition from you busy to busy, always traveling, and your brand being demand more than before? Was it overwhelming or did it just become natural? I think that's a question for both of us. It was definitely overwhelming. Let me just say that. It was nothing that came natural because I didn't expect it. What I'm doing now, I didn't expect to do it for years down the road. So when it happened and it sparked, it was actually amazing how it happened because it was my first season of New York Fashion Week. And after that New York Fashion Week session, I was sitting there. Well, actually, my line was coming out, and there was an editor sitting there of Vogue magazine. Had no clue, didn't even know who they were. I went out to do my final walk, and I was waving to the crowd, and he looked at me and he's like, "Great collection." Next thing I know, there's an article I made number 2, out of the best ready to wear of the season of New York Fashion Week. And then from there, it was 2 weeks from that, like LA Fashion Week called. I need you to be at LA Fashion Week in 2 weeks. So I was scrambling up a connection. Then after that, Miami. Then it was back to LA. Then it was back to New York. So it just it hit me really hard. So it was nothing that I was prepared for. It did overwhelm me a little bit, but it's something that I got used to really quick. I'll say that. It just kind of like I fell into it, and I felt like there was doors that were opening that I was told tons of times that the doors were going to open, but me, and I don't know if that happened to you, but I was expecting to come down when I was 40, 45, down the line. But when it hit, it hit. So I got to tell anyone who's out there and who's creative, like, always be ready for it, because it hit me, and I so happen to be ready for it. However, I would never want anybody to not be ready for it. So always stay on top of your craft. Always know your knowledge of, the industry and what you need to do, whatever it is that you're doing, so that you can be ready when that door opens. Do you agree? Did I answer that good?
I agree. I mean, fashion is so much different than costume design. I would say for me, like when I was called early one morning that I had been nominated, I said to the person on the other side of the phone, I was like, nominated for what? And they were like, you were nominated for an Oscar, baby. I was like, oh, I was doing Tina Turner's life story, and I had to get up at 5:30 to get to set. And when I got to set, I said to somebody, I was like, "Psst, come here. I just got nominated. Don't tell anybody." And he was like, okay. And I got Angela Bassett all together, and I was doing my thing, and I walked onto set, and everybody started applauding. And I was like, ew, this is something big, this nomination thing. This is a big thing. Like, sometimes you really do enjoy the work. And I was one of those people that really enjoyed the work of being a costume designer. Like, I was super happy with, having the opportunity to work with Lawrence Fishburne and get him dressed up as Ike Turner and exploring the 60s and watching Angela get ready in character while I'm in her dressing room and like having a beautiful beaded dress ready for her to put on. I loved that part of it. So when somebody called me and was like, you got nominated, I was like, for what? I wouldn't say that today, but back then, that's just what it was,
It's almost like a culture shock. Like, it just kind of hit you like, what?
Yeah, I really didn't need the award to tell me that I was doing the right thing. I didn't need that. I knew that in my soul.
And then that was good. Somebody write that down. You don't need the award. It's within. That's good. I'm going to take that. If I can take that, I'm going to take that.
Fashion is different though. Fashion is different. You need the award in fashion.
I know. Oh yeah. No, listen. Every award I can get, I'm gonna take.
We want that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Every cover, when they come, I'm taking it. Trust me. All right, we got 2 more questions, and then we're gonna wrap up. All right. What has been your most impactful hurdle?
There's so many. But the most impactful one, I think, was getting Black Panther done. And listen to me, I look a wreck when we finished filming, because it was a lot for me it was a big growth spurt. You ever look at your kids and you say, wait, 2 months ago they was this tall, now he's this tall. Right. That was my journey on Black Panther. Making specialty costumes like the Panther suit, there's a lot that goes into it. They sculpt with clay, they vacuum form, they build a muscle suit, the texture and the patterns on top have to be approved, and you have to submit, dozens of ideas. There are hundreds of illustrations that are submitted to Marvel before they land on one, and sometimes they don't want any of them, and you got to keep going. You go, wow. I don't have any more in me to keep going, but I got to keep going. That was the hardest job I ever had.
And I have to say, she's right, because the impactful hurdle for me is every fashion week. I believe preparing for a fashion week, and then after you get off the runway, then it's like, but you got to prepare for the next one. So for me, every impactful hurdle is fashion week. I think that's the time where you see everyone. They actually see your collection outside of the magazines, but they get to see it in life. They see it in real time. So they see the flow of the garment. They see the hemlines. So that's it for me. That's an impactful moment. It's an intense moment to make sure that every garment that goes down the runway is complete. So that's it for me.
I'd love to try that for Fashion Week. Oh, I'd love to be there.
Would never be the same. Let me tell you.
Exciting. That's exciting.
Well, I'm going to send you an invitation to my next show. You have to be there once the world opens.
I'll be there.
But front row, okay?
Front row. Woo! Nice.
You already know. Anytime you need it, you got it. All
Okay.
right. Let's go to this last question. What is a quote that you live by?
Trust your voice. That's my quote. Because when I first started Black Panther, everybody was trying to tell me how to do it. I had people that had worked for Marvel before and they had built costumes and stuff. And I just felt like, I was like, this isn't the Lion King, people. We are doing something real here. And I can feel what it is. I can
Right.
see what it is in my mind and what I was being shown because everybody was coming at me was like, oh yes, I've worked for Marvel for 100 years. I know exactly what they want to see. And I was nervous at first and I was like, oh, okay, show me. And then they go down the road and they do all this stuff. And I first saw the Dora Milaje, a piece of what it was turning out to be. And I was almost in tears. Like I like had a lump in my throat. I could not believe the atrocity I was looking at. And that's when I was like, this isn't the Lion King. We not faking this.
Right.
This is not you put some wood beads together. I mean, I have nothing against the Lion King. Great show, great bro. But that's different than this Black Panther
Definitely.
that we were
Night and
creating.
day.
And I knew what it was. I knew what it was. And I had to turn him around. So I ran and I got some pieces I brought back from when I did Roots, and I had South African leather guys twisting up some leather belts with amber beads and pounding some silver into it. It was beautiful. I went home and I got some of them things that I brought home from that film and I put it on the table and I was like, this is what it needs to look like right here. And they listened to me because I had to trust my inner voice that said, no, that's not what I want.
That's a good one. Trust your inner voice. Mine is the world is a rainbow. I use that all the time. I don't, for me, color is color. Patterns are patterns. I love to mix and match. So if the rainbow can have all these wonderful, beautiful colors put together in one solid rainbow, so can we. We just have to be confident in that. So I always say, every time when someone says, does that go? Can you do that? Why not? The rainbow has all those colors. The world is a rainbow. If you look at it, the world is filled with so many different colors, so many different people, genders, everything. It's just a variety of people, so that's what the world is. The world is
Oh,
a
that's
rainbow.
beautiful. That's so beautiful. That's wonderful to end.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, do you have any closing words? This has been an amazing time. It's great, because everybody, they're like, wow, two of Springfield's famous are together. For me, I don't feel famous. I just feel like I'm here doing the work. But I thank all of you, everybody who thinks, I am famous. Thank you so much. But I want to personally thank you for being on today. Do you have any motivation words for closing words for anyone?
I feel like we did it. We
I
covered
think
it.
so.
I'm honored that you asked me to join you. If we could, project, who we inspired today, I think, there'll be another conversation like this amongst two other Springfield natives
Yeah.
that, stepped out on faith and, believed in themselves and took our advice. And I'd be proud to know them and to see them flourish.
Me too. Like, if that's you and you're sitting in the same spot that we are, please invite us because we want to be there to listen. Again, Miss Carter, I thank you so much. Shout out to Erica. Erica, I know you're watching. Thank you.
Hi,
Love you.
Erica.
We love you. We love you. Thank you. Believe it or not, she had such a huge part in putting us together. So I thank you so
Yeah,
much.
she
And to Miss
did.
Vanessa.
And that was snowstorm day too. I had
It
you know,
was. It
get
was.
out,
It sure was. It was.
go off the
Listen,
car. You
I went
just
straight out, and she said, come now, come now. And I'm like, I'm coming, I'm coming, I'm coming. But I was there, so it was such an amazing night. So thank you again. Thank you, everyone. I want to thank this amazing team. I want to thank Andrew Maxwell for putting this together, making sure that me and Miss Carter were well put together tonight. I will also thank our wonderful photographer, the celebrity photographer, Scott Parker, who is here tonight, to my assistants, Crystal Grimes and Nicole Webster. Thank you all so much. Thanks to everyone who watched tonight. Miss Carter, I cannot thank you enough. You know I'm always going to be in your DMs or somewhere, you know, hey, Miss Carter, or sharing something. So you always know you will always see me. You don't have to worry about that. But thank you so much.
Okay.
You know I love you. Okay.
Thank you. I
Thank you
love
all
you
so
too.
much. All right. You
Awesome.
all have a good night.